Do you ever look at your life and think, wow, where did that part of me go? That part that used to light up at certain things, the part that used to dream, create, play. Maybe you're so busy being everything for everyone else that you don't even know what makes you come alive anymore. If any of that resonates with you, I want you to know you are not alone. I've been there too. There was a time when I was so focused on getting everything right, career, parenting, responsibilities, that I forgot what it felt like to just play, to create for the sake of creating, to express myself without worrying whether it was useful or productive. And then one day it hit me. I had stopped doing the things that made me feel like me. Like the only thing that I was creating was packed lunches. And let's be honest, they were not that creative. Hi, I'm Petrina. This is Pretty Deep, and I am so glad that you're here. So, if you were here the last time, we talked about confidence, how to build it from the inside out, how to stop tying it to things that can be taken away, how to truly step in to who you already are. Did you get a chance to try any of the tips we talked about? Maybe you caught yourself speaking a little more kindly to yourself. Or maybe you wore something that made you feel like the best version of yourself. If so, yes, I love that for you. If not, no worries. This journey is all about progress, not perfection. Well, today, let's take that even further. Because confidence isn't just about how you see yourself, it's also about how you then express yourself. And that is where creativity comes in. It's not just for artists, it's not about talent, it's about how you show up in the world. Think about this. Have you ever styled an outfit that made you feel amazing? Or rearranged a space in your home to make it feel more like you? Or tweaked a recipe to make it your own? Found a clever way to get your toddler to eat their veggies? That's all creativity. But here's the thing, so many of us shut it down without even realizing. We tell ourselves, I'm not creative, or I don't have time for that. That's for other people, not me. And when we do that, we're actually cutting ourselves off from a source of joy, self expression, and even from confidence. Creativity isn't about getting it perfect. It's not about being the best at something. It's about play, experimenting, expressing who you are. And let's be real. When was the last time you did something just for fun? That's why in today's episode, we're talking about things like why creativity matters, even if you don't consider yourself a creative person. We'll talk about how it shows up in everyday life, how it can boost your confidence and improve your mood, and even help you navigate challenges. We'll discuss practical ways to tap into your creative side, whether it's through fashion, home, writing, cooking, or something totally unexpected. This is going to be so good. So grab your coffee, put your feet up, like me, get comfortable, and let's dive in. Being creative is not just about art, music, or design. It's a way of thinking, it's a way of problem solving and expressing who you are. It's in the way you cook, the way you style your outfits, the way you decorate your home, or even how you find solutions at work. But somewhere along the way, we stop thinking of ourselves as creative. When we were kids, we painted without worrying if it was good. We built forts out of blankets, made up stories, danced around the living room like no one was watching. We didn't need permission to create. We just did it. Why? Because as kids, we believe that anything is possible. A child doesn't look at a cardboard box and see a box. They see a spaceship or a castle or a race car. Their imagination is not limited by realistic expectations. They just go with whatever excites them. But as we get older, we start to lose that sense of freedom. We become practical. We start worrying about what's possible, what's acceptable, and worst of all, what other people will think. And here's where that becomes a problem. We start feeling stuck. We stop dreaming. We stop exploring new things. We get caught up in the same routine, wondering, is this it? We feel like we've lost ourselves. Maybe you've spent years raising kids, focusing on your career, or taking care of others, and somewhere along the way, you've stopped doing the things that make you feel like you. We get caught up in comparison. We see other people thriving, pursuing their hobbies, chasing passions, and we think, I don't have time for that, or I won't even be any good at that anyway. So why bother? We stop having fun. Life becomes all about responsibilities, and we forget that we're allowed to enjoy ourselves, to create just for the sake of it, to do something simply because it makes us happy. And you know what? That's why so many of us get stuck. Because creativity, it thrives on possibility. The moment we start saying, that won't work, that's not realistic, I'm not creative enough to pull that off, we shut down the very thing that allows us to explore new ideas. But what if we could get that sense of possibility back? What if we could reclaim creativity? Not as a luxury or as a hobby, but as something that's absolutely essential to our lives. Because here's the truth, creativity is not extra, it's necessary. It's the antidote to so many things that leave us feeling unfulfilled, disconnected, and drained. Now, creativity, it's not just fun. It's actually one of the fastest ways to build confidence. Because when you create something, you're proving to yourself, I can bring something new into the world. I have ideas. I have something to offer. And science, it backs this up. Gosh, I love science. Now, creativity activates the brain's reward system. Every time you create, whether it's writing, painting, cooking, solving a problem, your brain releases dopamine. This is the feel good neurotransmitter, and it's the same chemical that makes us feel accomplished, motivated, happy. Creativity also strengthens neural connections. Each time you engage in a creative task, your brain is forming new neural pathways. And this strengthens your cognitive flexibility, which is your ability to think in new ways. It improves problem solving, adaptability, and even emotional resilience. Creativity reduces stress. Studies show that creative expression, whether through art, music, writing, doodling, it lowers cortisol levels. Cortisol is the stress hormone. That's why so many people find painting, knitting, crocheting, journaling, singing therapeutic. And creativity also builds confidence through small wins. Every time you create something, you experience a sense of progress and accomplishment. These small wins boost self esteem and they reinforce the belief I can figure things out. I am capable. The science is clear. Every time you create, you're strengthening the part of your brain that says, I'm capable, I can figure this out, I have something valuable to offer. And that, my friend, is confidence. Life can feel so routine sometimes. Wake up, work, take care of responsibilities, sleep, repeat. But when you bring a little bit of creativity into your life, it breaks up the monotony. Maybe it's cooking something new or rearranging a space in your home or just trying a hobby because it feels good. I learned this firsthand when my kids were little. Like so many mothers, I was completely consumed with my little nuggets and caring for them, raising them, and being fully present. And somewhere in the middle of diapers and meal prep and bedtime stories, I put my creative pursuits aside. They were not that important, or so I thought. Not because I didn't love them anymore, because I felt like I just didn't have the time, the energy, or the mental bandwidth to spare. And honestly, soon I started to feel the effects of that. I felt drained, like I was giving everything to everyone else and leaving nothing for myself. Now, look, I'm all about loving and serving and doing things for others, but you can't pour from an empty cup. I wasn't unhappy, but I was missing something. Eventually, I realized if I was going to keep my sanity, I needed to create. I realized that I had to replenish myself if I was going to really love and serve with a full heart. So I started making jewelry and writing. And what started as just a way to satisfy my soul turned into something bigger. Before I knew it, people were asking me to make pieces for them, and I ended up selling my jewelry online successfully. I also started writing for the New York Times and created a website on Indian food. I poured my creativity into words and recipes and into sharing my culture in a way that felt deeply personal. And you know what? It made me a better mother, a better wife, a better me. Here I was cooking all these beautiful Indian meals for my family, introducing my children to a new cuisine and to their culture, and making a little money on the side for my young family. Because when you're creatively fulfilled, it spills into every other area of your life. Being creative doesn't just make life more interesting, it makes it more joyful. There's this myth that creativity is only for creative types, but that's not true at all. For me, one of the most creative things I've ever done is raising my kids. Parenting is the most dynamic, ever changing, completely unpredictable creative act that I've ever been part of. Half the time, it's improvising, like you're on MasterChef with five random ingredients and one screaming toddler as the timer. If you're a parent, you know exactly what I mean. Creativity helps you adapt. Every child is different, even in the same family, and parenting requires constant problem solving. It helps you connect, whether it's making up bedtime stories or finding ways to teach life lessons or turning a stressful moment into a laugh. Creativity strengthens relationships. Creativity helps you enjoy the process. When you stop seeing it as a nice extra and start embracing it in your daily life, even ordinary moments become more meaningful. And not just in parenting, in friendships, in marriage, even in the workplace, it makes life richer. It brings people together. Think about it. When we create, we naturally want to share. Whether it's swapping recipes, showing off a DIY project, playing music with others, or even discussing books and ideas, creativity helps us find like minded community. It expands our world. So, you could join a group or a class, art workshops, writing groups, dance classes, paint and sip. Being creative with others is so energizing. You could share what you make. You don't have to be a pro to share your creativity. Post your photos, read your poetry out loud, and swap ideas with friends. You could celebrate other people's creativity, compliment a friend's photography, support a local artist. Okay, now let's talk about exactly how to tap into your creativity, even if you feel like you haven't used it in a while. Maybe you're listening to all this and you're thinking, okay, I love the idea of being creative, but where do I even start? Maybe you haven't done anything creative in years. Maybe perfectionism is holding you back. Or maybe you're so busy that creativity feels like a luxury you just don't have time for. But here's the truth, you don't have to find it again. It's already inside you. You just have to make space for it to show up. Let's talk about simple ways to reconnect with your creativity. No pressure, no expectation, just for the joy of it. I want you to start doing something creative just for the fun of it. Not every creative thing you do has to lead to a finished product. You don't have to turn everything into a business or a perfectly executed project. Sometimes it's just about the joy of making. I've always loved trying new things: knitting, sewing, crochet, polymer clay, jewelry making, DIY decor. I have done it all. And one of the biggest breakthroughs I ever had was the day that I realized I could just paint over a painting if I didn't like it. I was painting on a canvas when it hit me. If I didn't love how it turned out, I could just paint over it and start again. It sounds so simple, but it was so liberating. I didn't have to get it right the first time. And suddenly, painting became so much more fun. So, Ask yourself, what would you create if you could let go of the pressure to make it perfect? Now, this next one, it may sound counterintuitive, but you've got to make space for boredom. I've already told you the story of how boredom was the birthplace of creativity for me. For those who don't know my story, my dad was a pilot in the Air Force. And every few years, he was transferred to a new base. This time, I was 16. We just moved, and I knew nobody at this new base. I was bored out of my mind. One day, while rummaging, I came across this big tire with an inside tube. Since I had nothing to do, I let my mind wander and imagine possibilities of things I could make up with it. I came up with a design for a bag and then worked really hard at figuring out how to work with this material and make my design come to fruition. I designed and created a unique piece that I loved using for years. I was so proud of it, and it got me so many compliments. Nobody else had anything like it. Stepping away from constant distraction and giving yourself space that can lead to unexpected inspiration. And here's the thing, most of us don't even let ourselves get bored anymore. We're constantly switched on, engaged, scrolling, consuming. Phones, social media, and endless entertainment mean that we never have silence to let our minds wander. And honestly, we've become afraid of boredom. I know boredom can feel blah, it can feel unproductive. Sometimes it even feels like sadness. But it's actually one of the healthiest things for us. Some of the best ideas come out of boredom. Some of the most creative pursuits are born from moments when we weren't being passively entertained, but were instead forced to engage our brain, to think, to wonder, to invent. So instead of constantly filling your schedule, allow for some stillness. Put your phone down for a while. Go for a walk and don't listen to anything. Let your mind wander and see where it takes you. Because creativity doesn't come from being constantly stimulated. It comes from giving your brain the space to explore, to imagine, and to connect ideas in new ways. Try something new, even if you're bad at it. Have you ever wanted to try something creative, but you've held back because you weren't sure you were any good at it? Let me tell you, I am not the world's best painter, but painting is one of the most fun, freeing things I've ever done. And you know what? The more I do it, the better I get. Nobody's hanging my work in a gallery, but I love it. Creativity is a muscle. You don't have to be great at something to enjoy it. Even if your first attempt's pathetic, so what? Maybe your cake collapses. Maybe your first sketch is lopsided. Maybe your DIY project doesn't turn out like the Pinterest version. Who cares? The joy is in the doing. I cannot tell you how many half-finished projects I have shoved in a cupboard somewhere because they didn't turn out the way I had pictured them. And for a while, I thought that made me a failure. Now I see it. It just means that I was trying, and trying is the win. Plus, there's something interesting that happens when you start creating. You begin to see the gap between your taste and your skill. At first, what you create won't match what you envisioned in your head. But that's a good thing. It only means that you have really good taste. And if you keep going, your skill will eventually match up to your taste. How cool is that? Always follow your curiosity. Pay attention to what sparks it. This is one of the best ways to rediscover your creativity. For me, curiosity is what led me to photography. Back when I was writing for fashion and design magazines, I wasn't just writing. I was responsible for coming up with ideas for magazine features, for sourcing products to photograph, for styling sets and models for editorial shoots. Dream job, right? I know. I was fully immersed in the creative process, carefully curating the look and feel of each photo shoot. But every time I was on set, I'd find myself watching the photographers. I wanted to know how they worked, what lenses they used, how they framed their shots, how they played with light. So I started wheedling them to let me try. At first, they laughed me off, but I kept at it, asking questions, peeping over their shoulders, and soaking in every bit of knowledge they'd share. Eventually, one of them handed me the camera and said, "All right, let's see what you can do." And that was it. I was hooked. From there, I went down the mother of all rabbit holes, teaching myself everything I could about photography. I studied natural light, then artificial light, then strobes, until suddenly I had my own fully fledged studio. I was creating stunning portraits of women draped in flowing gowns that I had styled myself from bolts of fabric and safety pins, all because I was curious. So, what's something you're even a little curious about? Maybe you're drawn to a certain kind of art, but don't know why. Maybe you keep stopping to admire pottery or woodwork or fashion, but have never tried making any of it yourself. Maybe there's something you used to love doing, but you haven't done it for years. Instead of ignoring that feeling, follow it. See where it leads. Because when you allow yourself to explore creativity without expectation, magic happens. One final thought: creativity is in you. Reclaiming it is not about forcing yourself to be artistic. It's about opening yourself up to the creative moments in your everyday life. Nowadays, they're calling it romanticizing your everyday life. So, start noticing all the small ways in which you're already creative. Make space for curiosity, for boredom, for play. Try something, even if it's just for fun. Because when you do, you'll start feeling more like yourself again. All right, let's look at some practical ways to reignite your creativity. It's something we're all born with, but somewhere along the way, life gets in the way. Responsibilities pile up, self doubt creeps in, and before you know it, you've convinced yourself you're not creative. But if you ever improvised a meal with whatever was in the fridge, or figured out a clever way to organize your junk drawer, or found a unique solution to a problem, you are creative. It is in you. So, why do so many of us struggle to tap into it? Let's talk about 4 common creativity blocks and how to break through them. The first and most common one I've heard is I don't have time to be creative. Between work, family, errands, and everything else on our plates, creativity feels like one more luxury that we can't afford. But here's the truth: it doesn't have to mean setting aside hours and hours for a big project. It can be small, woven into your day in simple ways. I lived this when I was raising 2 kids under the age of 5 and expecting my third. If I didn't make space for creativity, I knew I was going to lose my mind. So I found small moments while they napped, while dinner was in the oven, when they were playing on the floor near me. I reckon this is what made them so considerate and resilient, coming along with me for the ride. This was when I started making jewelry. And what started as a personal creative outlet, it became something I genuinely looked forward to, and eventually something that I turned into a small business. The point is, you don't need huge blocks of time to be creative. It's about finding tiny windows and using them intentionally. Doodle when you're on a phone call. Hum a melody while you're cooking dinner. Try a new way to arrange your lounge and chairs and coffee table just for fun. It's not about making time, it's about noticing and embracing the creative moments that are already in your life. Are you guilty of saying, "I'm not creative enough"? Come on, raise your hand if you've ever thought, "I'm not the creative type." Creativity is not about painting or playing an instrument. It's about problem solving, storytelling, experimenting. One of the biggest myths about creativity is that it's a skill that's reserved for artists. In reality, it shows up in every part of life. It could be a teacher finding a new way to explain a lesson, a business owner coming up with a fresh marketing idea, a parent turning an ordinary day into an adventure for their kids. It's not about being the best. It's just about being open. Start noticing the ways in which you're already creative. And here's a little challenge. Over the next few days, anytime you do something that requires even a little creativity, write it down. For example, you tweaked a recipe based on what ingredients you had in hand. You came up with a game to keep your kids entertained. You wrote a heartfelt message in a birthday card instead of just signing your name. By the end of the week, you'll be surprised at how often you're already using that creativity without even realizing it. The fear of failure and perfectionism are the biggest creativity killers. When you put pressure on yourself to do something amazing every single time, it becomes impossible to even start. When I was making jewelry, there were times when I would sit there for what felt like hours, beads strewn across my table, trying to figure out what to make. All because it had to be perfect. Then I noticed how my kids created so freely. They would paint wild, abstract shapes, tell bizarre stories, and never second guess what they were making was good enough. They would show me their handiwork with such pride every time. But as adults, we hesitate. We compare. We judge our work before it's even finished. And that is what stops us from being creative at all. Seriously, just give yourself permission to be bad at something. Try something without the pressure of being perfect at it. Creativity thrives when there's freedom to experiment. If you love to write, try free writing for 5 minutes. Don't edit. If you want to paint, let yourself make a mess on the canvas with zero expectations. If you want to dance, put on music and move however feels good to your body. Joy is in the process, not in the perfection. Of course, there's also those times when you just don't feel inspired. Sometimes creativity feels blocked because we're waiting for inspiration to strike. But inspiration doesn't just happen, you have to create it. Remember, we talked about creativity being a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Sometimes the best way to spark creativity is to just start, even when you don't feel like it. Change things up. Inspiration comes from new experiences. Try a new route on your daily walk or listen to music you wouldn't normally play. Read a book outside of your usual genre. Go to a museum, a cafe, or a new part of town. Fresh environments, they spark new ideas. I remember when I was stuck in a creative rut and a wise friend said to me, go and sit at a cafe in the local market square and just people watch. While you're there, jot down ideas that pop in your head in a notebook. Oh my goodness, what a treasure of ideas came from that. So, what's the key? Don't wait for inspiration to come to you. You go out and find it. Now we've talked about what holds us back, let's do something about it. In the next section, I'll walk you through a simple 5-day creativity reset. Small, doable steps to reignite your creativity, even if you're feeling completely stuck. Sometimes all we need is a little jump start to get our creativity flowing again. This challenge isn't about being perfect. It's about playing, experimenting, and remembering how much fun creativity can be. Each day, you'll have one low-pressure challenge. You can do them in order or pick whichever one speaks to you. On day 1, I want you to do something creative just for fun. Do an activity with zero expectations, no goal, no pressure, just play. Doodle for 5 minutes. Write a silly short story. Dance in your kitchen like nobody's watching. Grab some magazines, cut things up and paste them and make a vision board. This is about joy, not about results. Give yourself permission to do without judgment. On day 2, take 15 minutes to do absolutely nothing. No phone, no screens, just let your mind wander. Sit outside and stare at the sky. See what shapes the clouds are forming. Take a walk without music or podcast. Daydream about a future life. Let your imagination run wild. Remember, boredom's not the enemy. It's where your best ideas come from. On day 3, try something new, even if you suck at it. Pick a small creative activity you've never tried before or one you haven't done in years. If you never draw, sketch something. If you never cook, try a new recipe. If you never sing, pick and belt out a song in the shower. If you never DIY, make a simple craft. The shops are full of kits you can get inexpensively, just to try. You don't have to be good at it. Just try. And yes, that means that your sourdough starter that looks like a science experiment, that counts. On day 4, I want you to follow your curiosity. Dive into something that sparks your interest, even if it seems totally random. Watch a YouTube tutorial on something cool. Look up the history of something that fascinates you. Visit a bookstore. Pick up a book on a topic you would not normally read. You never know where your curiosity might lead. On day 5, pick one small creative practice that you're going to continue beyond this challenge. This will make creativity a habit. Start a 5-minute daily sketchbook. I have a girlfriend that spends 5 minutes, 10 minutes every day just doodling in a book pictures of what she's done that day. She has a whole collection of these sketchbooks, and they are the most delightful thing to look back on. Keep a curiosity journal where you jot down ideas. Schedule a creative date with yourself every week. Begin with a simple creative warm-up before work, like journaling or stretching. The goal is simply to weave creativity into your daily life, not just do it as a one-time thing or an activity class that you signed up for, as an ongoing part of who you are. Don't forget to share your wins. If you try any of these things, I would love to hear about it. Share your creative moments. Tag me, please, at Pretty Deep Podcast, and we can celebrate your creativity together. All right. So we've talked about the practical side of creativity. You've stuck with me so far. I love that. Now come deeper with me. We've discussed how it builds confidence and how it sparks joy, how it connects us to ourselves and to others. But I believe it's more than that. It's something that's wired into you by God Himself. That desire you have to create, to build, to express, it's not random. It's part of His nature. And because you were made in His image, it's part of yours too. And when we create, we're not just making things, we're partnering with God in His work. Creativity is part of His nature and ours. That's why the very first thing we learn about God in the Bible is that He's a creator. Genesis 1:1, first book, first chapter, first verse in the Bible. It says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Before He was called Savior, Provider, Healer, He was Creator, our Father. And even if you're listening today and you're not sure where you stand with God, just know this. The fact that you feel drawn to create, to build, to express, that's a spark of His image in you. Whether you recognize it or not, it's there. He delights in it. Because we're made in His image, we are like Him. Just like a child carries the traits of their earthly father or mother, we carry the traits of our heavenly Father. We create because our daddy God is creative. When you take something that didn't exist before and you bring it to life, whether it's a painting, a melody, a business, or even a beautifully set table, you are reflecting the heart of your Father. And here's something even deeper. When God created, He called His creation good. After making the earth, the skies, the creatures, and finally humankind, He stepped back and said in Genesis 1:31, "It is very good." Let that sink in. If God Himself takes delight in what He creates, shouldn't we? Creativity isn't just something some people have and others don't. It's something wired into every single one of us. It's part of who we are. And when we embrace it, we experience a glimpse of the joy and fulfillment that God Himself had when He made the world. We are called to co-create with God by leaning into our gifts. He gives us talents, gifts, passions, a personality, all for a reason. He equips us to create, just like He did with Bezalel in Exodus, in chapter 35 and verse 31 and 32. It says there, He filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge, and with all kinds of skills to make artistic designs. God didn't just tell poor Bezalel to go off and build the tabernacle. He gave him the exact skills he needed to do it. And He does the same with us. If He's given you a gift of music, please write that song. If He's given you a love for fashion, please style boldly. If He's given you the ability to capture beauty, take that photo. Your creative gifts, they are not random. They are placed in you for a reason and they are meant to be used. Think about it. How often do we downplay our own gifts? How often do we hesitate thinking, who am I to do this? But if God placed that gift in you, who are you not to use it? Creativity isn't about forcing something out of nothing. It's about stewarding the gifts He's already placed inside you. It's about listening to the Holy Spirit as He nudges you to create, to express, to make something new. Because when we co-create with God, we're not just making art. We are building something eternal. Did you know that creativity is a way to worship God? Have you ever created something and felt so in the zone that time just disappeared while you worked on it? That feeling, that flow state? It's not just creative energy, it's worship. I experienced this deeply when in my portrait studio, I decided that I would photograph 40 women over the age of 40 and document their stories through photos and video interviews. Each woman who walked into my studio, she had her own story, her own insecurities, her own journey of self-acceptance. And through my lens, I got to show them their beauty, their strength, their resilience. Several even cried tears of joy when they saw their photos, saying that they had never felt so seen. In those moments, all I could think of was glory to God, the giver of all good gifts. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity. Thank you for equipping me with something that gives me the ability to encourage, to uplift, to create something so meaningful. That's when I knew it. This wasn't just photography. It was my act of worship. Because worship is not just singing in church. Worship is anything that glorifies God. Colossians 3:23 says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as if you're working for the Lord and not for human masters. When we create with joy and with gratitude and with a heart that honors Him, our creativity becomes an offering. It doesn't have to be Christian art to glorify God. Your creativity brings Him joy simply because it's an expression of how He made you to be. Just like a parent delights in their child's artwork, God delights in your creativity. Just like you delight in your children's creativity and your parents delighted in yours. We have got to break the lie that creativity doesn't matter. For so long, I downplayed my creative side. I found myself thinking that fashion, photography, design, these were all just hobbies, fun, not important. Maybe you felt that same way. Maybe you've believed that creativity is a luxury or worse, something frivolous. That's a lie. The world has tried to trivialize creativity, making it seem like an extra, an add-on, something only a few people are gifted with. But think about this. What would life be without creativity? No music, no books, no art on our walls, no beautifully designed spaces that make us feel at home, no color, no movement, no joy-filled expressions of the human spirit. Creativity is essential to life. It brings beauty, meaning, connection. It heals, it inspires, it speaks when words fall short. And when you create in any form, you're tapping into something divine. Because our God is a creator, and every act of creativity, big or small, it's a reflection of Him. Embrace it, trust it, and let yourself create. Now, as we wrap up, I want to encourage you. Creativity is your gift. Use it freely. If you've been doubting yours, if you've been wondering whether it really matters, let me remind you, it does. It's not just about making something beautiful. It's about bringing something to life that wasn't there before. It's about problem solving, expressing yourself, and even healing. Best part? You don't have to earn the right to be creative. You already are. So if this episode has stirred something in you, if it's made you think, maybe I'm creative, maybe I do need some more of this in my life, then let this be your permission slip. Go create, paint something, write something, dance, rearrange a space, try a recipe, take a picture. Just because you like how the light is falling, don't overthink it. You don't need a reason to create. You don't need to be perfect at it. You just need to do it. If you've been waiting for a permission slip, this is it. Signed, sealed, delivered. Go create, go play, go make something, and don't forget to tag me so I can cheer you on. Because creativity is a gift, it's a joy. The more you embrace it, the more fully you step into who you were always meant to be. Now, Next week, we're going to talk about something really personal. We're talking about you. Not as a mum, not as a wife, not as any of the other roles you play. Just you. Because I hear from so many women who say, I love my life, but somewhere along the way, I feel like I've lost myself. If you've ever looked in the mirror and thought, where did I go? This episode, it's for you. We'll unpack why this happens, how to start reconnecting with who you are, and what God says about your worth and your identity. You're not invisible, you haven't disappeared, and I promise you don't want to miss this. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Pretty Deep, share it with a friend who needs a little creative spark. And if you have a moment, please leave me a review. It would mean the world to me. It helps more people find the show, and I'd be so grateful. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep creating. Much love.